we all talk about everyone talks about like nowadays about finding, your passion. And sometimes people, it takes them their whole life to find their passion. For example, myself, I only found out what my passion was a year ago, 2 years ago. So the question I was thinking about is how could a 16 or 17-year-old trying to make a decision on what career path they're going to go into, which even from a lot of people I know, I studied, for example, business and finance. I have never worked a day in business and finance and I worked in sales. So it's funny how things work out. But how could someone at such a young age make that kind of decision? Do you understand what I mean? Like how would they know? Like I found out so much later in life, and a lot of people probably did too.
I love this question. It's probably the number one question I get asked. And careers education it's like politics. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has, there's always a skeptic in the room, and everybody, kind of normalizes, yeah, but nobody helped me and I figured out, like, why are we putting pressure on kids? And my favorite thing to do is remind, any kind of adult in that formation time with young children that 20 years ago we were using beepers, and for some of us who were lucky enough to have a mobile phone, they were heavy, they were bulky, they weren't really things that you'd want to carry around. And yet today we're walking around with these really swift, smooth gadgets, right? So technology is evolving on every other platform. And why aren't we allowing the youth to have that kind of involvement in careers education? So I'm going to keep saying this word again and again, and it's important. That's where it all starts.
Yeah.
How do we help the youth to understand their career pathways? By teaching them and educating them on the realities of the world of work. Most young people don't even understand what their parents do when they go to work. Most young people won't even be able to identify what their parents do when they go to school and they go to work. So when we're talking to those younger students, we're not talking about work, about what do you want to do when you grow up. I don't even believe in that question. And it's actually one of my favorite talks is, it's not what do I want to be? It's not what do I want to be, sorry. It's what do I want to do when I'm older, and not do in the shape of job title, do in the shape of what do I want to bring back to the world. And that's my theory. And it's an informal theory. That's my opinion. But when I'm helping the youth, I'm educating them. We're learning about things. COVID right now is the classroom for life. It doesn't matter how young or how old you are. We're all learning something, and it's by sharing these things. So as students start to get older, the service changes. I call the older student service more of a reactive service. So unfortunately, the tendency for young people to seek out help is when they get closer to applying to university, and that's a reactive service. It's almost too late to calm anxiety and help those students to discover. It's not even a discovery. It's more of a kind of calming them down, helping them lessen that anxiety, and beginning to try and do exploration of the options available, and helping them to understand that the world is their oyster, and we're not preparing young people for one job. And that's another thing that's really, really important to remember. When I work with the youth, when I'm working with the community and helping other practitioners bring quality to their standards of careers education, it's important to remember that we have to teach young people that it's not making the one choice for the rest of their life. It's where do I want to start, and how am I going to get excited about that beginning? And then from there, the journey continues. And it is a journey. Anyone that you speak to, if you look at any of my interviews with professionals, we talk about the career journey, their story. Where did it start? How did it evolve? What are some of the changes they've made? So these are the conversations that we have with the youth. But like I said, the younger they are, the more of a discovery process it is. As they get closer to graduation, particularly in that final year when they're applying to university, it's a reactive service. So that's where you really need to support them with the things that they need.
Yeah. And I think you made such a good point about like making the difference between, or identifying that by that point, it is a reactive service. It's not proactive, which is why when, as you were talking about earlier, your career program desk starts very early because you're proactively starting to educate them. So by the time they do get to that, they've been in that program for about 10 years maybe. And then by that point, hopefully they have a much clearer, I guess, understanding of what they would like to do. And I think also a really good point you mentioned is not training them or like teaching them for one particular job, rather coming back to not what's the job I want to have when I graduate, but the why. You know, what's the impact I want to have on this world? Like bringing it back to that, because that's what's gonna help drive whatever that first, like you said, it's not that final choice, whatever you pick to study at university, but it is the beginning. It's the first choice you made to start working towards that why that you're trying to get to.